I just have no desire to talk about this book while sober. So, you know. Whiskey. Hi! Welcome to Amber Unabridged. This video contains some language of a sexual explicit nature. So if that is something that you would wish to avoid, or of, you know, yourself, or prefer that it not be overheard, or save the video for later, or avoid it altogether, this is your heads up about that. Otherwise, enjoy, I guess. Today, I'm gonna be talking to you about Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert A. Heinlein. Yeah. According to the cover of this version that I've got right here, it is the most famous science fiction novel ever written. Didn't know anything about it. Somebody I know was just like, hey, I'm starting this sort of book club at this like craft beer bar in town, and we're gonna start by reading this book and discussing it. And I was like, cool, I'm in. I had a week to read the book in time. Borrowed this one from a friend. So glad I didn't spend money on this. And it's awful. It's really bad. It's bad in every way. It's not written well. The prose and the dialogue are awkward and stinted and kind of dry, and by kind of dry, I mean really dry. This is garbage. It's dry. It's written poorly. I'm sorry. There's the kind of sexism that you expect when you read old sci-fi. One of our characters, once you get introduced to him, first thing you learn is that, you know, he's watching these three women splash around in a pool, and he's like, it's very important to have three beautiful women who are equally good, like, who are also equally good at being secretaries, because having pretty secretaries is, like, where it's at. And I'm like, all right, no, but all right. Excuse me, what? And then we get into the actual content, which is still not good. So basically the plot, and if you have any interest in reading this without spoilers, you may want to set this video aside for now, because I'm going to get into spoilers. However, don't read the book. It's not good. You know, these humans settle on Mars, like a small group of people. It was like 4 or 8, I don't know. And it was like all these married couples. They die, and one of the married couples had a baby. Or he's legally the child of 3 parents. It started out bad, and then it got weird. Anyway, he's born on Mars, and they're like, oh, it's been like 20 years. We should probably go, like, check to see if any of the people we dropped on Mars are still cool. So they send off, and by they, I mean the government. And I don't mean, like, the American government or the British government or the French government. I mean the world government. It's a government of the world. So they send another ship to go, like, recover any survivors, because they had lost contact and they didn't know what the deal was going on Mars. And they show up, and it's just this dude who was born there, and he doesn't know people. He grew up raised by Martians, because there are Martians. They bring him to Earth. Valentine Michael Smith is the man from Mars. They're trying to get him to acclimate. You know, he's used to floating around or whatever. So he gets to Earth, and they, like, have him on this waterbed in a hospital because he can't stand. He has no muscle mass to, like, move around. And he's only been spent, like, 3-ish months learning English on the trip back to Earth from Mars, because this guy was teaching him English, and he was teaching dude Martian. And apparently the Martian language sounds like a rhinoceros humping a jackhammer. The only word that we here of Martian is the word grok. It translates sort of into like know and understand, share, be of mutual understanding, be like acknowledgement, like dual acknowledgement, oneness, thirst, foreknowledge, I guess, but also, I guess, water. Water's a huge thing. If you share water with a Martian, you become water brothers. And when you're water brothers, according to the first part of the book, now mind you, it's basically 2 books. So if you share water in the first part, it's sort of like creating this unbreakable trust, this like intense bond with your water brother. And you are like, if your water brother tells you to jump, you jump. You lay down your life for your water brother. Anyway. So share water, you're good. So they got him in this hospital. This nurse is just like, oh, hey, like, women aren't allowed in there because he's never seen a woman before, but, like, I'm curious, so I'm going to go in there anyway. So she does. And she ends up, like, offering him some water, and he's like, oh, yes. And so she's like, all right, I guess. And so then they become water brothers, and she doesn't know what the fuck that means. Then she's talking to her reporter friend, and he's like, can I get in there? Can I see the man from Mars? It's like, everybody wants to know this dude. Everybody wants to shake his hand. She's like, I don't know. He's, like, under top security. And he's like, okay, but, like, he's kind of in danger, though. And she's like, what? So, like, because, like, all the settlers who settled on Mars initially set up some kind of trust where if, like, all of them were getting paid, like, a buttload of money from the world government called the Federation. And if any of them died and any of them survived, like, anybody survived has the rights to the ownership of all of the assets from any of the original people being sent to settle on Mars. Everybody died except for this guy who was born there, so he inherited everything. He's basically a multi-billionaire, but he doesn't know what money is. He doesn't understand that that's a thing. He never met his parents. He's never seen another human in his life. They're either going to kill him because then by default the money goes to the government, or they're going to lock him away somewhere and, like, be his trust. The nurse breaks him out, and then everybody's trying to get at her. She goes to her reporter friend's house, and he's not there because he got jacked by the government because he was trying to write a report about how they were being sketchy, and they're just not about that, so they hijacked his air taxi. But she's like, oh, he's so innocent. He's basically a child. She goes to this lawyer doctor guy's mansion because her reporter friend was like, if anything happens, go there. He'll protect you. And, like, nobody will break into his house. So they do. And then he's just, like, this convoluted, like, high-talking character that the author basically invented to make himself seem really smart. So then they spend a bunch of time at this guy's house, like several months or a year. I think a year. They're living there. They save their reporter friend. So apparently Mike, as they refer to him, he can basically not breathe and he never sleeps. I'm like, dude needs to sleep though. He's like spending all of this time trying to understand religion. Harshaw, the lawyer doctor guy with the mansion, he explains God to him, and oh, so you're God? And he's like, no, definitely not. Eventually he realizes that kissing is a thing, and he's just like, oh, it's a way to grok one another and become closer. It's a closeness. And I'm like, I mean, I guess, but like, I mean, it's not as innocent as they were originally trying to make you sound when all these girls, all these secretaries that Harshaw's got living in his mansion are trying to drop their panties because you kissed them the one time. Like, it started getting weird. This is, you know how I said it started off bad and then it got weird? This is where it starts to get weird. He definitely boned one of them. And when that happened, it was definitively the most awkward sex scene I've ever read in a book. While they're boning, he's just like, thou art God. And she's like, thou art God. And I'm like, damn, that's some good sex. He's like, we grok God. And I'm like, That's not something I would ever want to hear in the middle of some hanky-panky. And then he boned all of them. So, Jill and Mike decide to leave. She's not been a nurse for a long time, I guess. He's teaching her Martian. She's learning it. She's trying to teach him how to fit into society and how humans work and how everything works. They run off and start boning all the time. They join the circus. Because if you want to learn about how people work, that's the way to do it. And then they meet this tattooed lady. So she becomes their water brother. And then they all have sex. Yep. Because now, when you share water and you become water brothers, you have sex because it's a way to be closer. Except with other dudes. That's not okay. Did I mention it was homophobic too? Because it is. Also racist. Also still sexist. Because, like, it starts getting into this whole, like, free love, have sex with everybody in the name of spiritual awakening, I guess. And then Mike, the man from Mars, decides that he is going to start his own religion. But it's not a religion. But it is. And he makes a church. Or a school. And he starts teaching people Martian so they can think like him. I'll acknowledge that the language that you think with defines the way that you think. Different languages can promote different kinds of thinking. So he starts this school, and it's actually this church, and it's just this religious sex cult from Mars. He's like the dude. He's like the Pope of this thing. And he just bones everybody. Everybody thinks that he's just like this, like, all-knowing, powerful, godlike dude of sex. This is still the part where it's weird. It gets more weird, if that's possible. This other religious leader that had died, and then this other religious leader that Mike had killed, because he can just, like, make things disappear, and then they're just gone. Inanimate objects, people, whatever. He doesn't know where they go. They're just not around anymore. And so he makes this, like, church leader leave because he sensed a wrongness in him. And then this church leader's, like, up in, like, a security control room in heaven, looking down on the earth. They're, like, taking care of shit. They go on with their sex cult, and then that just kind of goes on for a long time, and the government's just like, we're not cool with this, you're too powerful, and, like, other religions are like, we're not cool with this, whatever, even though it's supposed to work with other religions. And side note, one of the churches that they encountered had a casino in it, and they promoted, like, sex and gambling and all that kind of stuff, because their whole religion was like, have fun, do what you want, it's awesome. The government or somebody, whatever, tries to kill them all and burns down the church, but they'd all escaped. Okay, so one thing I didn't explain yet is the old ones. There are these old ones on Mars, which are basically dead Martians. And they're kind of like ghosts, but they're just, like, in your head all the time. On Mars, everybody's really patient. They live for a really long time. So, like, 1,000 years for a human on Earth passes kind of like a month or two on Mars. You know, they're just kind of like, whatever. So Mike gets all concerned, and he starts talking to Harshaw, because he sees Harshaw as, like, his dad, kind of. He's just like, I'm really worried, because, like, I think the old ones are gonna show up and, like, kill everybody on Earth, because they're too destructive, and they're not peaceful enough, and that's why I started this religious sex cult school, so that A, they can communicate with the old ones in Martian, and B, people can learn to be more peaceful and stuff by having sex all the time. And Harshaw's like, yeah, I guess. and then gives him some kind of advice about how, like, I guess you just, like, be honest with people. So he goes out to talk to them. Like, this angry mob shows up, and he goes out like, I love you. And they're like, woo, throw rocks, let's shoot him. So they start, like, throwing things at him. They shoot him. His arm blows off. And he dies. And then he's dead, and none of his water brothers who are there, like, do anything about it. They're just like, oh, like, it was just what was meant to be, I guess. And Harshaw's like, what the frickin' frack? What? And so then, because on Mars, when your water brothers die, you eat them so you can be one with them. You grok what I'm saying? Yeah. I need to cleanse my soul for saying that.